Hi, good day. I'm Dr. Leighton Narain. I am the research manager at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College in St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm here to bring you a project proposal that we are here to implement. The proposal was submitted to Adelphi, which is a part of the German Federation that is funding this. They're responsible for environmental, I would say, pollution and atomic energy. It's essentially a think tank in Germany that is funding this project. It's on behalf of the Ministry of Environment in St. Kitts and Nevis, who submitted the project, and they have selected the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College as the implementing partner to do the technical work in terms of assisting and supporting the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. It's a multi-country project involving a number of countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, of which St. Kitts and Nevis is a counterpart. Other countries in the Caribbean are Suriname, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, and the British Virgin Islands. Others in Latin America are Colombia, Costa Rica, and the Dominican Republic. And it would not end here. Other countries will join this program so that we can get a wider coverage of marine plastics reaching the Caribbean Sea. So any country that washes into the Caribbean Sea would eventually or should eventually become a part of this project. Now, there are four components that we'll be looking at over 2 days in next week. Well, 3 days actually, because the first day that we will have our partners arrive in St. Kitts and Nevis, and our local partners would be to conduct some field observations to gather information. In fact, the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College Research Department has already conducted that reconnaissance and gathered essential information to identify in the field what are the potential demonstration and monitoring sites for looking at the flows of plastic and other litter, including, I would say, styrofoam and so on. So that the petroleum-based products that reach the sea, we want to prevent that to reduce pollution. And the way it becomes pollution in the sea especially is that these petroleum-based products, especially plastics and styrofoam, they can turn into microplastics because they're both petroleum-based and they can get into the food chain. So one of the components that we'll be looking at, we will have several workshops, and one of them we'll be looking at is the material flow analysis, to look at how the material flows from the land or terrestrial environment into the marine environment. The other component would be that we will look at a circular economy to see when we collect the debris, how that can be processed and turned back into other products, and so that they do not get back into the environment in a detrimental way. The third component would be to do a stakeholder analysis. We want to do that so that our consumers can understand what the issues are, what can be done for them to contribute to solving this problem, and also to have an extended producer responsibility aspect to it, which essentially is putting some responsibility back to the producers for the consumer behavior. But I must say that it's not anyone in particular that has this total responsibility. We all contribute to it. So we will want also to look at our own attitudes and behaviors as consumers. And therefore, we will get that kind of support. We will do surveys from the persons in the vicinity of where the plastics enter the sea, and also from the land where they accumulate, I would say hotspots, and so on. The other aspect of it is to do capacity building, where we will want to contribute and support the government in the plastic ban. So we'll be looking at policy analysis and legislative analysis so that we can come up with the right policies, we can develop and implement the right policies and get the kind of results. A fourth aspect of this would be that we would want to do some kind of communication and awareness strategy where the consumers throughout the country will become aware of the issues and how they can participate. And one of the things that is essential about that aspect is that we will want to be programmatic, in that we will want to get into the schools and so that we can learn at all ages. In fact, sustainable development for future generations, that's one of the objectives, is that we want students at a young age to understand this, and so they can develop the appreciation, attitudes, and behaviors so that it will last throughout their generation and generations to come. And only then can it be sustainable. So the implementation period is just for this period of time, where we can get this pilot project started. We'll collaborate widely with all stakeholders, and then we will implement it in our education system, in our communities, private sector, civil society organization, and governmental agencies so that it permeates the entire society. And that itself will become sustainable when it is taken beyond our lifetime, I would say. So I want to thank you very much for listening, and you will hear more about this as we implement this project next week. Now, we have actually already started to implement it in a soft, so I would consider it a soft start. And so this launch will happen next week, Wednesday, when we will have an opening ceremony with all stakeholders, and then we will move into the various workshops that will arise out of those components that I just mentioned. Thank you very much for listening.